After a long, drawn and contentious process, the final list of the NRC or the National Register of Citizens has been put out in Assam. The list excludes 19 lakh people from the state who have up to 120 days to appeal, more if they go all the way to the apex court. But the NRC exercise has long gone beyond just a legal process, even as it is being monitored by the Supreme Court. Now that the list is out, no one is satisfied. Those who are backing the NRC process and saying it was important to identify outsiders are unhappy that the number of exclusions is just 19 lakhs. Those protesting the process still say it is unfair, and the poorest and weakest are at the receiving end. So why is the NRC so contentious, and what happens next? To speak on this today, I am joined now by Prashant Bhushan, senior advocate, Aishwarya Bhati, also senior advocate, both of course in the Supreme Court, and senior journalist Kishore Bhattacharjee, who has been following the process so far. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for speaking with us today. Kishore, I want to start by understanding what the situation is like currently after the list has been put out, because those who are advocating for NRC so strongly, including Finance Minister of the state of Assam, Himanta Biswa Sarma, don't sound very happy. Is it because the initial numbers being projected of Bangladeshi immigrants or illegal immigrants was as high as 40 lakhs, and now with a figure of 19 lakhs, many were asking if this was a boogie?
No, I think that's not the case. I think the BJP really got twisted itself in this whole NRC exercise, particularly in Assam. In Assam, it's, the layers are different. The divisions are different, and it's kind of driven a wedge into age-old, century-old antagonisms. It is not about faith and religion as much as about the linguistic division that prevails in Assam. And, let's be candid. I mean, the NRC exercise in Assam is basically to profile anybody who is Bangla speaking, and the Bangla speaking could be a Hindu or a Muslim or anything else, or a Buddhist. And it found legitimate, which means if they find that they have what they require as what they call the legacy papers, the Bangla-speaking person in Assam will be considered as a refugee and a migrant. It's only about illegal refugee or a legal refugee. So that is going to be a situation forever. On the ground right now, I think there is, as usual, more and more anxiety about people who were hoping to find their names, who had applied, did not find their names. They don't know what's waiting for them. If they are, legitimate citizens, it's kind of very humiliating to be called and summoned again and again to tribunals. On the one hand, I think the BJP realizes that a veritable vote bank is going to be lost, so they've immediately distanced themselves from what they thought. So, Amit Shah calling termites, etc. Although that language is now gone. Himanta Biswa Sarma is saying that they don't accept or they reject the NRC. That plays two things. A is that it also plays into the Assamese sub-nationalism, that narrative that, well, this is not good enough a number. And two is that, yes, we reject it because genuine Indian citizens may have been included in it because that is their vote bank. So I think for them, they've played a smart card to be able to distance themselves from the NRC. But what has the NRC really achieved, except for 25 people who have died in detention centers, including a 45-day-old baby, an 85-year-old man, a partially disabled man being thrown into jail, and many of those people who died were later found, their names were found in the NRC list. So they were Indian citizens, and they were thrown into the detention center. So there are more people in the detention centers. There are several people who are going to be now, this 1.9 million people are going to be summoned, called. I myself have, just to understand the process of how it happens, rather than sitting in Delhi and, observing and critiquing it, I actually in 2015 had applied for it because I lived in there for about 11 years when I was working, covering that region. So I had applied for it, and in the first draft, that is the last year's May draft, I found that my daughter and my name, and my daughter was born in Delhi, we were not on the list. And then I went through the entire process of how it happened. It is extremely scary, tedious, frustrating, and I think not implemented, and it's not even possible to implement the manner in which they were going about implementing it. I mean, legacy document. I mean, who carries a legacy document?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll come back to you, Kishle, on more details. And of course, I understand, the process you've gone through. Thank you for sharing that with us. But now what happens next? Because I've got lawyers on my panel today, but let's be honest, a lot of the NRC has been about political messaging as well. Aishwarya Bhati, let me come to you first on now the claims that whatever wrongful exclusions there have been in the NRC, and if there have been, will be fixed by the Citizenship Amendment Bill that the central government hopes to pass maybe in the winter session of Parliament. The underlying message seems to be that if there were wrongful inclusions of non-Muslim people in that list, that will be fixed with this amendment, which will allow these people to apply for citizenship if they've been refugees of Hindu faith or Sikh or any other faith apart from Islamic, and that will rectify it. But as Kishle explained very interestingly, that NRC and its legacy in Assam is not so much religious as it is about ethnicity and the outsider-insider move. How do you think this will all play out now?
Well, Tamanna, I think I must put out a caveat that I am not privy to the proposed bill that you are speaking about, and as to when it is likely to come and what will be the proposals. But I can tell you the existing processes, Mr. Chitle spoke about it, of course, out of his own personal experiences. But the existing processes, NRC exercise has been carried out in terms of the Supreme Court judgment. This is not a legal exercise, this is an administrative exercise. This is not the first of its kind. In fact, NRC as a concept was first done, I think, in 1951. The first National Register of Citizens was made, and it was supposed to be done every decade. So, supposed to be followed by every census and ought to have happened every decade. It's just that as a country for the last 70 years, we've done nothing about it, and we after 1951, to the best of my knowledge, there was no NRC. So, it was only after the Supreme Court stepped in that this whole process started. Of course, I don't have any personal first-hand knowledge of the ground situation, but from the media reports, it is very, very clear that there are lots of follies with the whole exercise, and the legal process that exists today. If there is any wrongful inclusion or exclusion, the remedy that is available to anybody for that is going to the foreigners tribunal. And the existing persons who are languishing in jail that Mr. Chitle was speaking about, see, it's not pursuant to the NRC exercise. This is an ongoing process. Even there are existing cases. Mr. Prashant Bhushan has brought some cases to Supreme Court, and he was appointed as amicus in those cases as far as I can remember. So, this is a process and exercise that has been going on. Of course, NRC is a mammoth exercise, and the number of inclusions and exclusions here, the claims and contentions would be very high.
What is the point you're making? The question I'm asking is very simple. There was a figure of 40 lakhs which was touted, then the actual figure has come down to 19 lakhs. No one is happy because this was seen by those that were thinking that there would be some big cleansing of infiltrators, that their claims were much larger. So people were asking, what were your claims based on? Others think that the whole process is inhuman. So what is the point? That is the question. What is the point? What happens next? Let me come to Prashant Bhushan on this. Mr. Bhushan, how do you see this panning out? And as a face saver, at least for the government, is it important for them then to bring in this Citizenship Amendment Bill?
No, the Citizenship Amendment Bill is a communal bill. You see, they have in that bill, they have said that only non-Muslims can apply for and can be given citizenship under that amendment. So, it is clearly discriminatory on religious grounds, and it is therefore unconstitutional. But you see, there are two issues here. One is, what is the manner in which this whole exercise has been done and the problems with the process, and the second is what happens thereafter. Now, it is being said that those 19 lakhs who have been excluded can now apply to the foreigners tribunal, appeal to the foreigners tribunals. Now, the process of the foreigners tribunal so far has been such that 2/3 of the orders passed by the foreigners tribunal so far have been ex parte, where notices were not given or served to the people. So, the notices said Salim Akhtar plus 47 others. Nobody knew which 47 others, therefore, nobody turned up and they declared them to be foreigners by ex parte orders. This is the by and large what has been happening there. Moreover, the persons who man these tribunals are now retired bureaucrats, lawyers with no judicial experience, lawyers with only 7 years practice or 7 years enrollment, who are totally innocent of the law. And therefore, and for the poor people who have been left out, it is very difficult to approach these NRCs. And suppose thereafter they are still declared as foreigners, as the 1000 people who are languishing in detention centers, some for as many as 10 years.
Yeah.
What happens to them? Will all these people be put in concentration camps or detention centers? Because Bangladesh has refused to accept not even 1% of the people who are lodged in detention centers, because they are claiming to be Indian citizens and Bangladesh has refused to accept them. So, what will happen? Will you keep 19 lakh people detained indefinitely in detention centers in abominable conditions, etc.? So, nothing of this has been thought out by the government as to what will they do with all these people who have been declared foreigners, quite apart from the injustice of the manner in which this exercise has been done.
Okay, another important point, and if there are any responses to what Mr. Prashant Bhushan has said, please indicate and I'll come to you. But another important point, that people have highlighted is about how even those who find themselves on the NRC can be again questioned by authorities about whether they belong there or not. So, just because you're in the list for now doesn't mean you're always going to be in that list if someone questions it. Kishle, can you explain why this is a very important amendment and what it could lead to?
Well, already from the draft to the final list, there are a lot of people who actually had their names in the list are now out of the list because somebody complained against them, and then the tribunal basically called the person whose name was on the list along with the complainant, and the complainant did not turn up, so they didn't find their name in the list and in the final list. So there are not just one, there are scores of people who have this experience. We will get to know more as certain details come out, but we know certainly that names have dropped out, and those are the people most anxious because they don't know what happened. So they are supposing their wives and their children are in the list and they are not there. Or for example, there are lots of cases of 10, 11-year-old children whose names are not there in the list because they could not establish linkage with their parents, and their parents and their grandparents are in the list. Now, it is absurd. It's actually becoming, almost absurd, the manner in which a lot of names, and this is not just one or two. So one or two could have been, just a bit of flaw somewhere. But this is large scale. Overwhelmingly, there are cases coming up, and this is not anecdotal. There's a pattern to it. Clearly, this is not something we need to detect. Okay. People coming in from across the border illegally. I mean, you have 60 smuggling, points along the Indo-Bangladesh border. 20,000 cattle from India go across to Bangladesh every night and gets regularized as animals of unknown origin. So there is a problem along the border. You're not fixing the border, but out here, there is this politics, the political landscape of Assam for the last 30, 40 years has been the Assamese-Bengali antagonism. Yeah. And of course, then later, there has been a polarization and something that the ruling party finds extremely favorable to the politics that they play, the religious polarization. But the NRC is not just fitting their game completely unless they pass the Citizenship Amendment Bill. That may solve a lot of problems for them. And
for them, but it has the first attempt to pass it didn't go down too well in the Northeast right before the elections, and they had to sort of back off on it. So it is a complicated issue. Also, to for the record, the BJP government has taken it forward, but previous governments in Assam, including the Congress government predominantly, has pushed for the NRC process because it is something which has appealed to the people of the state. Rightly or wrongly can be a separate debate, but it has appealed to the people of the state who believe that their ethnicity has been compromised by a large influx of quote-unquote outsiders. Aishwarya, you wanted to come in on a point. The whole legal process of it and what Kishle describes is fairly scary, that anyone can get up and complain that someone who is on the list, I think they shouldn't be on the list, please check again.
So, if there are any inclusions which are wrongful in the list and people could have gotten on the list by showing forged documents or documents which are improper, etc. So, that legal scrutiny will be, judicial scrutiny will be available. Now, unfortunately, in India, going through the legal process is scary, whether it is the NRC exercise, whether it is a matrimonial matter, revenue matter, anything. So, going through the legal process in India, unfortunately, is very, very scary. But having said that, the point that I was trying to make earlier, Tamanna, is that, this is an exercise that is happening 70 years too late. Of course, it's bound to be riddled with issues, it's bound to be riddled with problems. The sheer size of the problem itself, the logistics and dimensions of it are mammoth. And to, top it up, it happens after 70 years for an exercise that ought to have happened every 10 years after every census. And, this is happening. I don't want to get into any political commenting on the issue, but this is an exercise that is happening pursuant to the Supreme Court judgments. So, it's all right, for anyone to say or find any politics into it, but NRC is an exercise contemplated and established in our system. The Supreme Court has directed it. Yeah. What ultimately, if there are faults in the process, the faults need to be attended to. Maybe because the faults are too many right now, the existing process, maybe another way could be found to maybe to the government was earlier suggesting that there should be a revaluation of a limited portion, in border areas and in other areas.
Because
the mechanisms will have to be found, but it is important to identify.
Because there the fear is that why are there less exclusions in the border areas than in other areas, because the belief is that the border areas have more Bangladeshi immigrants coming in. So, so the idea is not suiting the purpose. Is that what we are seeing? That the data finally is not suiting the purpose, anyone's purpose. So, everyone's been left a little unsatisfied with what has come out. Prashant Bhushan, in that sense, does it go towards giving some credibility to the process, that the number is less, whatever data or whatever we know as of now of the number of minorities on that list, if it was all part of this one big conspiracy, to target minority communities as it was being painted, then this list may have looked a little different and maybe there would have been more happy people.
So, because of the Supreme Court having driven this NRC, it's not been a communal exercise as the BJP government would have liked it to be. They wanted only Muslims to be excluded, but now it seems that there are an equal number of Hindus and Muslims who have been excluded. But the fact is that the people who have been excluded are, you see, those people who have either been unable to produce the documents that were asked for. A lot of poor people in this country cannot produce birth certificates or land records or school certificates, especially which are prior to 1971. So, a lot of people who migrated to Assam from say West Bengal or other parts of the country would not have been able to get their documents from their parent states, their original land records or school certificates or birth certificates, etc., and therefore, they have been excluded. Now, the thing is that unfortunately, this issue of ethnicity has been raised not merely in Assam, but also in Maharashtra, etc., where they say Maharashtra only for Maharashtrians. In a country like India, where the constitution guarantees a fundamental right to every citizen to go and reside anywhere in the country, this issue of ethnicity, that look, people are coming from outside Assam, are diluting our culture and ethnicity, etc. This is not the kind of issue which should be raised, which can be raised under our constitution.
Aishwarya wants to respond,
Unfortunately,
but I want to get
it is being raised again and again.
Yes. Kishila, I think you should respond to it. Yeah.
Want to quickly make a point, Tamanna. I just wanted to make a quick point that, you know, the issue with Maharashtra or other states is very, very different. They're not saying that non-Indians have come. You know, these are different problems. Assam, the problem is not that other Indians have come and, you know, the ethnicity is getting lost because of that. It is people who are not from other states of India, who are actually people who are non-Indians.
Okay.
They have come and illegal immigrants. So if somebody is coming, either India should be able to give them, you know, shelter and a proper asylum. If they are not properly given asylum, then they continue to be illegal immigrants and they have to be identified. Tamanna, is my view.
Okay, let me go to Kishile. Yes.
I don't know whether Aishwarya knows the history and the geography of Assam and Bangladesh. It's a contiguous land. So 24th March 1971 is your cutoff date, and your partition happened in 1947. A large number of people, and Assam was, you know, for example, Sylhet, the district in East Bengal, was part of Assam. And a lot of people from there came to Assam in 1947.
Yeah.
People who are not finding their name in the list right now. So it is about ethnicity and about linguistic division. Like I mentioned, the language out here is of prime importance, and it's extremely important for people to know the history of several partitions that happened in that area and the reorganization of states, which actually drove a wedge between the two communities, and this is playing out now. But what is more scary, not just the legal process. The scary part is that in the insider conundrum in Maharashtra, in Tamil Nadu, in UP, in various other places, it's the same game, but in Assam, there is almost a overwhelming consensus against this issue. There is absolutely nobody who comes and says that, well, 25 people have died in detention. There is no one who's going to come and say what Prashant Bhushan was raising, that, you know, no one thought about what to do with them. You cannot deport. This is basically, it's just, you know, the All Assam Students Union, ASU.
Yeah, I'm going to let Aishwarya respond, Kishile, because she heard you out, and after that slightly condescending kind of a barb that you took at her. She is a well-known Supreme Court lawyer. I think it's only fair that she gets an opportunity to respond. So on the show, barbs are okay, but equal response is only fair. Yes, Aishwarya.
It's okay, Tamanna. I don't want to respond to the barbs. It's okay. But the point that I wanted to make earlier was regarding Maharashtra and other states.
Yeah. The
problem is with other state citizens, and of course Assam. We do understand the geography and the history of Assam, and in fact the cutoff date of 1971 is actually coming out of the Assam Accord. So it is a date which is, you know, 23 years more than the rest of the country. But, you know, I think what is important for us to understand is the administrative process is over. The legal process has to start. There are too many, you know, questions that still need to be answered. The answers have to be found to this, you know, not just in legal ways. I think it's important to understand that there's a very human angle to this, and Mr. Bhushan is right in saying that we can't just, you know, go and deport them to another country without the other country agreeing.
That point, and I need to wrap. Which is why I'm cutting in. But just with this, that these questions, like for example, some which Mr. Bhushan raised about what will you do with all of these people? Are you going to put 19 lakh or whatever, 18 lakh people in detention centers? Who is going to take them? Will they be disenfranchised? Does India want to be a country which puts a large number of people in some kind of detention camps? These are questions which should have been asked and answered before this whole process started. At the end of it, no one is happy. People are worried. We definitely don't want to lose our humanitarian side through this entire process. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the debate. Okay, Kishile, last word. Okay, Kishile, last word. I'm absolutely out of time, but I'll give you the last word.
I said I wasn't condescending and there was no bar. I'm saying that this is a very complicated issue, and it should not be, you know, just passed off by saying, I mean, they're different.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll end it at that, and I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. And before we go, I just want to focus on a very important story. Shooting the messenger when the story doesn't suit authorities has unfortunately become all too common. And we have seen this time and again. This time, a journalist in Mirzapur, Uttar Pradesh, Pawan Kumar Jaiswal, is at the receiving end. Jaiswal shot a video of kids in Mirzapur eating salt with roti in a midday meal scheme. A government scheme that is supposed to ensure underprivileged children get a hot meal. The video went viral, and the state government officials who should have sat up and taken notice of their own misdeeds also decided to book Jaiswal for a conspiracy against the state government. The reasoning behind the conspiracy theory is bizarre. One is that as a print journalist, Jaiswal had no business filming a video. Another is Jaiswal knew in the morning that a poor quality midday meal was going to be served since he was tipped off to come cover the story, and that's the conspiracy. So why doesn't the Yogi government now go after officials who serve poor children roti and salt as a meal and not the journalists doing their job? Doing what a government is promised to do is a much better way of improving your image rather than attack those who expose the truth. It's an important story, especially considering India is ranked 140 out of 180 global in terms of press freedom. It's something we should work at improving. With that, I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening on the show.